there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, review of the online gaming system contract negotiation.
Would you like me to proceed, Tony? It's my understanding after our last board meeting that this group would like an update on the online gaming system contract negotiations. What I would suggest is we'll give you an overview of the current status of negotiations, what is currently in the public domain, and then when we turn to responsive proposals and strategy, we recommend that you convene an executive session. Just to give you a little bit of background information before we get into the chart that was circulated yesterday. Does anyone have a copy of that chart? We're over here. If you don't, the present online gaming contract with Scientific Games is worth approximately $9–10 million a year. The contract, and that's approximately, the contract expires in May of 2013. There are 5 renewal options which may be exercised all at once, or one at a time, or twice, anything like that. The present issue before us is how we exercise and whether we exercise those options, and what, if anything, will be the terms. We have been negotiating with regard to some of these items since 2009. Negotiations resumed in earnest based on timeliness in December of 2011. We're essentially down to the 6 disputed items that you can see in your chart, though there are some other related items that are mostly resolved. If you can turn to the first page of the chart, if it's your pleasure, I'll walk you through basically what those are. The first item is in the existing contract, Keno is not priced, and we have been negotiating Keno pricing should this organization be authorized to do Keno. Pricing that was proposed to the Connecticut Lottery in a letter in October 2010 was $157 with a $5.4 million capital investment. After some discussions, we received a letter from Scientific Games in January of this past year that moved the rate to 2.17 and had a $5.4 million capital investment. We responded and requested that they honor the 1.57 that the parties have laboriously negotiated for some time. And we didn't have extensive discussions at that time on the $5.4 million capital cost. Since the board last met, and since their March letter, we met and indicated to them, again, our position of 157. They sent us another letter on April 18th and raised their price to 2.38%, again with a $5.4 million capital investment, but paid out at $90,000 a month. Keno pricing is in part tied to the nature of the rollout and estimated per capitas. And I say that not because the contract negotiations have never necessarily been contingent upon per capita, but because the analysis is related to sales and it's related to, especially the capital investment is related to the number of retailers that we have. And you can see from there that essentially we've always been talking about basically having between 600 and 800 new retailers. Scientific Games' proposal to us in January was based upon 600 new retailers within 24 months. When we spoke in April, or actually our last proposal was basically that we had 750 new retailers over 3 years. The next column on the next page talks a little bit about the per capita assumptions that each of the parties are dealing with. Connecticut's per capita assumptions are based on data that was updated by Scientific Games from Leslie Badger in December of this past year, and it's an extrapolation and interpretation of what we believe the market will bear. We believe that the market has moved favorably since December 2010. Keno to go simply refers to the fact that we would propose to roll out Keno to all of our retailers. Again,
us a quick primer on per capita, what the whole per capita concept is. Something
Per
more
capita
fundamental.
concept.
And then just confirm that the per capita number is sourced from side games.
Yes.
It's not something that we independently analyze or calculate.
Per capita simply refers to how we measure sales. All of you folks see that with Lucky for Life and Powerball and Mega Millions. So we come up with a weekly per capita forecast as a way to estimate what potential sales would be for Keno. We were asked for additional information to provide to the Office of Policy and Management this past year. I sought data from Scientific Games. They provide updated data on what they thought potential sales in Connecticut would be. We analyzed that internally and extrapolated and came up with what we believe were reasonable per capitas. Did that answer your
Yes.
question? Okay.
And may I ask one
Yep.
question? The assumption of 600, 800 retail, why is that?
The reason why that's important is that your per capita flows in part from the number of retailers that you have up and running. And it's also critically important because, and Michael, jump in here if I leave anything out, because it drives the equipment costs.
And the question the next question to follow up is that a reasonable assumption? Is it because the Keno is so attractive you could expect to get that many more retailers?
It's a very good question. And because given the fact that we have 2,700 retailers, you say, oh my God.
It's a big number.
600 is a big number. That, again, is based on market data provided to us by Scientific Games of the potential, go back to a word that we came to learn the last couple of years, pouring establishments in Connecticut. So I have that data buried in here, but there are thousands of potential pouring establishments. And we do know that the success of Keno, in part, will rise and fall on how quickly we can license retailers and how successfully we can recruit them. We believe that we'd have to spend a lot of effort to do that properly and do that effectively.
Does that 6,800 number seem conservative to you? Or is that, how do you?
I would say it's a fair number. I think 800 is an optimistic number. I think 600 is a fair number, and frankly, that is the number we have been talking about since the beginning of any kind of Keno discussion. The how and when of the 600 is something that we've had greater clarity around in the last couple of months.
And that's the first year, 6,800.
Now, what we're talking about is Scientific Games' position was 600 within the first 24 months. When we fine-tuned it in the last couple months, we went to 550 within the first 2 years. About 150 of those would be existing retailers that have all of the Keno equipment in their stores, including a monitor. So presumably, Michael and I have talked about this some, and Diane, presumably those retailers, one, obviously they would have to go through a licensing process, but two, they're already selling lottery. They're handpicked by our salespeople, so they should have a solid success rate.
And they would need less equipment, because we already have a terminal monitor, limb, and everything, so they're fully operational.
And some of them are foreign establishments now.
And
Yep.
you're getting some of this market data or estimates from side games. Have you looked at it, testing the validity of their market assumptions? Because I'm not sure how independent their analysis might be. It may be the best informed, but they have a different incentive.
They have provided us data, which I have to assume and rely is accurate from other states. And part of when I said I extrapolated and looked at their data was to also look at what other states did during their first year, what other states did in fiscal year 11. So we have other states to benchmark the per capita estimates that they're giving us